Trips and Traps. I'm Andy Serling, joined by Eric Donovan, and this is our first Trips and Traps from Aqueduct.
It is?
Well, with Aqueduct races.
Oh, okay.
Second one
all
we filmed
Aqueduct
here.
Races.
Yes,
okay.
all Aqueduct races.
That makes
exactly.
sense then. Good mix of races this week. Like we said last week, we're a little bit skeptical to do some turf races because the season is winding down. We're not so sure that some of these horses are going to get back, but you know what? Trips happen in turf races.
Yes, trips happen. Turf races going are bad for us. It makes our job a lot harder. It's hard to find trips and dirt races. And, you know, if you get a turf race, especially the ones we had last week, people will be rushing to get back in. So I think based on last week, we'll get at least one more chance to see these horses. However, we are going to start off with a dirt race.
We will start off with a dirt race on Friday. This is a sixth race on Friday. It's a maiden claimer for two-year-old fillies, $25,000 tags. We're going to look at the one, Mustang Fever, first-time starter, breaks from the inside.
Yeah, this is a John Paracella first-time start. Took a lot of money with second choice. As you see, broke a step slow here. Not that bad. Richard Migliori is asking her to get her into the race. Unfortunately, things don't work out that well.
No, you see from right here, I mean, you know, after breaking slow, kind of moving up inside, you know, this is the kind of position where you say, okay, I'll take it from here, but then you get steadied out again, and this is a major steady here because not only do you lose a length or two, you're going to see Mustang Fever drop completely off the screen here, and I do think it's worth noting that the 3 Money Thief did have a little bit of trouble in this race too, was 49-1 right outside, or was right outside of Mustang Fever at that point, and Mustang Fever clearly had the more trouble in the race, but I thought Money Thief, you know, did have to steady a couple times in the backstretch, did finish fourth in here, didn't run terribly.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't a very strong field, but we're going to have a lot of situations like that. And of course, Mustang Fever stayed out the final time as they were hitting the far turn, and things just got a little bit tight, and she's dropped way, way out of it. And there she is right now in last, and we'll show you where she is in case you can't see, in those sort of copper-like silks. So she's last, lost an enormous amount of ground, has no chance. Of course, the winner sat a perfect trip and angled out in the turn, moving inside, and was off and winning by herself here. Well, Mustang Fever actually, surprisingly, puts in an enormous run and finishes third here, beating a reasonable amount. How much exactly did she lose by?
I guess 8 1/4.
Yeah, it's a reasonable amount. However, given the trouble, I think Mustang Fever, a fair post, a fair trip, tough to beat next time.
And certainly did take some money first time out as well, so you know the connections were behind Mustang Fever a little bit as well. Second race we'll take a look at is the next race from Friday, actually race number 7. This one a grass race. There's some obvious trouble in the race with North Country, but a couple other things going on as well. We're going to see a full field breaking for the mile and a 16 start out of the chute here. And the horse we're going to try to take a look at early on here is the 1A Plenty Coup, part of an entry with Barkley Tag. This other part of the entry, Radical Sabbatical, is going to run second. As they come onto the line the first time, you're going to see Plenty Coup on the outside and Lael Silks sitting in a good spot here, running third. The pace, I wouldn't say is slow, and I wouldn't say it's too fast. 23-2, 47-4. I guess it's on the quicker
It's pretty fast for Aqueduct. That's a pretty solid pace for this time of year in the course. I think this was like an experiment with Plenty Coup. For people not familiar with this horse, this was a horse trying a turf for the second time for Barkley Tag that had broken its maiden at the Meadowlands on the front end, setting a quick pace and just drawing away from the field. Now, you're not going to be able to probably wire fields that often, so obviously Barkley Tag wanted to find out how well Plenty Coup could rate. And thus he's sitting in third. He was third, he's fourth now. And to me, he spends most of the race losing position.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is a horse that was only a length and a half, 2 lengths off the lead under the wire the first time. And, you know, it was about 2.5, now 3 lengths. You see him dropping back in between horses a little bit there as well. So, you know, this is just a race that's, you know, just goes to show you that sometimes you just want to keep your position. You don't want to be dropping back here because now, instead of third, he's 7th.
Yeah, and he's not really steadying so much. He's just sort of in hand. Of course, North Country at this point is right inside of him, the 4 horse, and he's enjoying a perfect trip up to this point. And he's a second-time Trips and Traps horse, having gotten trouble on the inside last time. Well, apparently he got stuck there again, as you'll see in the stretch. And there's Plenty Coup behind him, and he's just never gotten into the race.
No, I mean, Plenty Coup is basically getting shuffled back pretty much here. Now it has a couple of horses in front of him. Alan Garcia is going to try to find some room. You're also going to see the horse that Plenty Coup is inside. This was Colonial Kid getting stopped out of the race here. Now here comes the trouble on North Country. You're going to see nowhere to run there, and about 3 or 4 horses passing North Country right away. North Country is going to finish 8th in here. Was the 2-1 favorite. A lot of people bet him, so they're going to be mindful of the trouble that he has this time. I think next time out, you got to be careful with this horse because he's going to take a lot of action once again off this trip.
I agree, and he finally refound his good form. On the other hand, he was getting a perfect trip. What if he won this race with the trip he got? Would you be thrilled to bet him the next time he ran? He might have been a perfect trip winner. To me, Plenty Coup is an interesting horse coming out of this race. Now, my guess is that we don't see Plenty of Coup at Aqueduct again. I'm guessing he goes down to Florida when we get down there for the winter, but, we can play the Gulfstream races and take a look at Plenty of Coup. Yeah, look, obviously you'd love to see him get loose in a race. On the other hand, I think even rating, he deserves one more chance.
Yeah, it seemed like a good learning experience for him. Maybe not this time, but maybe down the road later on. And then the last race we'll take a look at here on the first segment, the 8th race from Friday. This was a starter allowance that featured Austin La Viva Baby coming up the rail, but a couple other horses had trouble in here. Herald Square from the start.
Yeah, there's Herald Square baking behind the field, and you can see him number 9 in those blue silks, and he breaks 2-3 lengths slow easily. And the other thing is, he's a speed type horse, and he had a nice outside post, and instead of being right tucked off the leaders here, he finds himself already 6-7 lengths behind, and actually I think he's about 8 lengths behind the leader's call, and you can see he's already dropped off the screen. When they get to the quarter, he's 8 or so behind, and I think he makes up, there he is, his head's coming in the screen, just went off. He will make up 7 lengths from his position to the leader in the second quarter of this race, which for me puts him running his second quarter in just below 22 seconds, so about 21.90, which is impossible.
And certainly you're not going to have too much left in the stretch after running a second quarter like that. And Herald Square will fade a little bit here. You see him making a big move right up to the front here. Basically only a length and a half off the lead right now, and is going to flatten out from this point on. A couple other horses we wanted to take a look at here. The winner, Austin La Viva Baby, sitting the rail trip, and just behind Austin La Viva Baby is Coach Butts. Only a length and a half maybe separates these two at this point, but we're going to see the difference when you save ground as opposed to having to go outside and wait to go around horses. You're going to see how much ground loss cost Coach Butts here.
Yeah, this is an interesting example of the value of saving ground when it works out, and of course it works out tremendously for Austin La Viva Baby, who's in good form, but gets his second perfect trip in a row. And you have to be a handy horse to go through a hole like that. And there's Coach Butts sort of lumbering on the outside, and considering the position and everything, and Austin La Viva Baby had a little more acceleration, or maybe even a lot more. It almost like Coach Butts lost 3-4 lengths because of the move. This is the third time in a row, however, Coach Butts has finished second.
Yeah, Coach Butts is a horse that likes to come from off the pace. Obviously, he could be a victim to paces and some trips as well, but certainly a horse that, I think going 7 furlongs a mile, that's probably his best distance there. If he gets the right setup and he gets a clear trip, he's going to win one of these races.
Yeah, he is. He's run well in all those races, but, the problem is he gets the right setup. Sometimes they need it. And getting back to Herald Square, I'd be very interested to see Herald Square getting back in a 7-furlong race. I don't like horses getting left. Sometimes it's a bad sign. But to me, he didn't even fade that badly at the end.
Now, an interesting thing about Herald Square, too, is he'd run 2 pretty big races over the spring, had a long layoff, came back off the layoff, and ran a couple times in the turf. So this was his first dirt race back since those 2 big races in the spring. He showed some promise in here, and I think definitely a horse worth watching.
Yeah, I agree completely. That does it for the first half of Trips and Traps. We have 3 more races for the second half, and also, once again, we welcome your thoughts. Trips and Traps at NYRAInc.com. Gotten some emails. We'd love to hear more. See you for the second half.